Lilies of the underworld bloom on the banks of the forgotten river. I picked one as a gift for my birthday. The young prince pushed me into the river Styx for this reason. He watched me struggle in the water with the same detachment and indifference as his father. The lilies of the underworld are the exclusive property of my mother. What qualifications do you have to touch such a lowly mortal? If you don't get out of the underworld again, when I inherit the throne of Yama, I will definitely send you to abyssal pits to atone for your sins. The rushing west wind blew across my soaked body and chilled my heart. Looking at this child that I raised with my own hands, I had no sadness or anger, only a calm sigh. There's no need for you to rush. I will leave on the day the gate of rebirth opens. The water of the river of forgetfulness is no colder than the way Ethan looks at me. I picked up the trampled lilies of the underworld on the ground and sighed softly. The maid beside me handed me a cloak and wanted to help me go back to my room. But Ethan reached out to block my way. Who gave you the guts to touch my mother's relics? Anger and hatred were written all over the tender little face. It seemed like the next moment, it was going to eat me alive. I frowned. Ethan, don't mess around. This cloak of mandarin ducks and acacia was a dowry embroidered by Enyang's own hands. Although it looked exquisite, it wasn't as precious as the previous queen's. It wasn't that Ethan couldn't see it. It's just that he simply feels that anything related to the previous queen is not something I deserve to get my hands on. Ethan was a bit weak after he was broken down. He stomped his foot fiercely and ran away with a heart full of anger. I didn't chase after him to explain what happened as usual. After sending off a group of guests, I returned to my room alone. Just halfway there, I saw my palace burning with ghostly fire. After the fire was extinguished, the palace was still there. Everything I treasured, however, had turned to ashes. The little fox that I had raised for 10 years was also burned to a crisp, curled up in a corner. Before I could grieve, Ethan's smug laughter came from behind me. See, you stupid and useless mortal, you don't deserve to live in Underworld at all. I advise you to be smart and get the hell out of here. And don't even think about taking my mother's place. My heart fluttered. Eyes complex. I looked at Ethan. Why did you do that? It's all because you deserved it. You made me lose the Queen Mother, and I'm going to make you lose the most important thing of all. He slammed the lilies of the underworld to the ground. Laughing, he ran away. I looked at the mess all over the ground and was speechless for a long time. Back then, with the body of a living person, I came to this underworld alone to marry King Yan as my wife. The only thing that accompanied me was a flute. Whenever I miss my hometown on Earth, I will play the flute to relieve my homesickness. But this cold and silent underworld can't tolerate this kind of music. My flute was destroyed. When I was sad, a shadow fox, which is unique to Underworld, lay at my feet. A baby in its infancy. A silly little fox. The two young and fragile lives instantly melted my heart. I spent 10 years raising them. And then, in an instant, I lost them. Just as I buried my little foxes, the sound of wind suddenly broke from my side. Looking up, I saw Victor standing silently in front of me. Father and son are worthy of being carved from the same mill. The same noble self-possession, the same contempt for all things. He opened his hands and waited for me to come forward and undress him. Again, he said to himself, I heard about today's matter, Yvonne. You were in the wrong, seeing my indifference. He frowned slightly, a little unhappy. After remembering that today is my birthday, he still managed to slightly slow down his attitude. The childish son is young. Why do you bother with him? With a wave of his hand, the dust and smoke dispersed, and the palace was restored as before. It was still a magnificent sight of carved beams and paintings. It's just that the little fox that circled around my feet will never return. just like my heart that was once sincere and fervent. Also long ago in this father and son's indifference, smoke disappears. Victor, who had changed his clothes, sat down on the couch and lightly touched the table, signaling me to pour tea. I subconsciously obeyed. Just as I approached, I was swept into his arms by his large palms. He gently rubbed my cheek. Today is your birthday. I'll give you a gift, okay? His hand gradually slid down to my chest. License you to take one less dose of fertility suppressant potion, and if you get pregnant, it will be a blessing for you, and I will allow you to have it. The warmth of his breath spilled into my neck, but it sent chills down my spine. Victor had a lot of energy. Victor is very energetic. The month we got married, I was diagnosed as pregnant. Before I had time to be happy, he sent a bowl of abortifacient pills. I only love you in my life, and I will only have one child. Ethan, if you are pregnant, you will inevitably have a different heart and will not be able to take care of Ethan. After that, every time I had sex, he would stare at me and drink the fertility suppressant potion. 10 years in a row, not a day goes by. Today, faced with Victor's gift, I should serve him with all my heart and soul. But I avoided the man's touch for the first time. King of Yen, the 10-year appointment has arrived. Tomorrow, I should leave. 2. Those promised warmth is gone. Victor's words has died a few points of anger. Ethan is just a child. As a mother, it is your fault for not raising a child well. I have been extraordinarily kind not to hold you responsible. What face do you have to be angry? I purposely brought you here from the people's room, not to let you play small and lose your temper here. I closed my eyes. If I had a choice, who would want to come from the earth where the seasons are clear and the birds and flowers are fragrant? Come to this year-round cold, grassless underworld. Back then Victor fell in love at first sight with my first sister Jade. Ignoring the distinction between human and ghost, he took her as his wife. Ye family with Yanluo Wang's care. But also in the overnight rising to prominence. From the precarious and nameless peddler, a leap into the capital of the big official. Sister and Victor harmonious love very much. But the pity is that the fate of mankind is different from that of yin and yang. Sister pregnant, body deteriorating. Even if Victor exhausted 100 years of cultivation also failed to leave her. Leaving behind a child waiting to be fed, will be reincarnated away. The Ye family was worried about losing their wealth and fortune, so they sent me to be their wife, and Victor's heart was set on his first sister. So he didn't want to take anyone else as his wife, but he also felt sorry for the little prince's young age, and no one would take care of him. So he negotiated a 10-year contract to keep me in Underworld as a concubine, and I've been the biggest joke in Underworld ever since. Even the most insignificant brat. All of them dared to taunt me, a mortal woman with no power in her hands. I collected my thoughts and blandly said, "No offense, the contract has expired. If I stay in Underworld like this without a name and without a title, I will drag you and the little prince down and be laughed at. Besides, Underworld medication is extremely cold. After taking fertility suppressant potion for so many years, I have long been unable to bear children." Victor's tightly furrowed brow loosened a bit. His gaze was tentative and questioning. His tone, however, softened a bit. "What's the harm in not being able to bear children? At least you still have Ethan as a child. When he grows up and marries, I will give you the name you deserve, so that you can enjoy your old age in peace. No need. No one is so lowly that they would rather sell themselves as a concubine. Instead of being bullied in this dark underworld because of the lilies of the underworld, I would rather return to Earth as soon as possible. To return to my auntie's side, to tend to the flowers and plants that fill the yard." I straightened my clothes and took out my handwritten notes from my bedroom. I've written down everything you and Ethan like, and the few dishes he loves to eat are also written down in detail. The Luna girl beside you is a meticulous person. Give this to her and let her take my place when I'm gone and take good care of you all. Victor was silent. The already secluded underworld became colder all of a sudden. Yvonne, are you jealous? No. I just want to leave. Victor waved his hand casually. The sheets of notes I had carefully copied, along with the paper deed, scattered like dust. He stepped on it without pity. Don't be ungrateful. For the sake of your birth anniversary, I won't bother with you. You stay in your room for the next few days and calm down. There was a loud boom. The carved stone door closed, separating the two worlds. I looked at the bright light fading away in the night sky and smiled involuntarily. Those were fireflies caught from the earth for my birthday celebration. It was this underworld, one of the few lights. But today is not my birthday. Rather, it was the day Victor and my sister first met. The night before I was sent to Underworld. First matriarch Mrs. Ye found me. She told me to remember everything about my sister, to mimic her words and actions. Yvonne, only then will Yen look the other way for you, and you will be able to stand your ground. In Underworld, as she said. Victor, who was not interested in me in every way, only remembered my birth date. In order to alleviate my homesickness, he would personally go to the earth every year and catch 1,000 fireflies for me. This is the only day of the year I look forward to. Only on this day can I experience the warmth of home and the feeling of being cared for and taken care of. But, what you steal, you always have to return it. In the middle of the sigh, the roar of the evil spirits suddenly came from my ears. I fled in a panic, but a sharp pain came from my knees. And I fell to the ground. I could only watch as the evil ghost opened its bloody mouth and pounced on me. Just then, I heard a familiar laugh. Those evil ghosts were just a blindfold Ethan had cast to catch me. Ethan rode on the wall and raised the slingshot in his hand in triumph. Useless trash. What a disgrace. If you stay in Underworld any longer, one day I will put an arrow through your heart before throwing you into the evil ghost cave. He was proud of his ability to hit the target with a single blow. He completely forgot that it was me who taught him how to throw pots and shoot arrows. In the past, Mrs. Ye handed over Ethan, who was still in his infancy, to me. Her words were earnest. The grace of adoption is more important than the grace of birth. As long as you treat him with sincerity, Ethan will treat you as his mother when he grows up, and be filial to you, no matter what. You're all a family connected by blood. The Ye family trusted me. Victor and Ethan depended on me. I also gave birth to delusions I shouldn't have in the midst of false prosperity. Yet 10 years have passed. This father and son, one treats me like nothing. One hates me to the bone. 3. I ignored Ethan's fierce gaze. Rubbing his knees, he went straight back to his room. Tomorrow, on the 7th day of the 7th month, the ghost gate is wide open. I will be able to go home. The next morning, Mrs. Ye, who came in a hurry, tripped over my departure. She knelt in front of me as she did 10 years ago, begging bitterly. Yvonne, Ethan is still young. He can't leave you. Your father and brother all look up to King Yen for care. The sons and nephews of the Ye family also rely on you for promotion. You can't act capriciously. You said so much. Why don't you ask if I'm doing well, Mrs. Ye froze for a split second. Laughter from outside the door interrupted her next sermon. A shapely ghost girl with a graceful demeanor walked in. As soon as she entered, Ethan ran and jumped into her arms. Auntie, I missed you so much. The two held hands and walked straight past me, not even giving me an extra glance. The aroma of fat and powder came along with the murmurs of the surrounding ghosts. Miss Yvonne is really pathetic. Shamelessly relying on Underworld, racking her brains to please Yanluo Wang, and in the end, she can't even compare to a lowest-grade ghost girl. Yesterday, she clamored to leave, and today, she's relying on the Underworld. I'm only afraid that Miss Luna is worried about taking her place. Ethan raised his little face and rubbed it in Luna's arms. Father has been waiting for you for a long time. Let's go find Father together. I like Auntie the most. Auntie's demeanor is atmospheric and her speech is good. It's different from those pretentious earthly women. I froze. I had been born in the Southern Rivers water country and could not adapt to the bitter cold of the Underworld. When I first came here, I had one serious illness after another, and the Underworld ghosts laughed at me for pretending, refusing to even bring me medicine. Only 3-year-old Ethan stayed with me. He held the peach blossom pastry I made and carefully fed it to my mouth. Auntie, you have to get well soon. I love Auntie. Auntie is the best person in the world to me. How could I have thought at that time? The little tale that followed me all day long would become a sharp thorn in my heart. I sighed and turned to help Mrs. Yi up. You see, there is never a shortage of people to take care of beside King Yen and the world sun. Luna was just a ghost concubine of the lowest order. But with her 7-point resemblance to her sister, she was able to easily enter the main hall where I couldn't set foot. Easily, taking away the hearts of both father and son. Mrs. Yi, who stood up, no longer had the sadness on her face just now. She raised her hand and slapped me. The force was extremely heavy, and my face, all of a sudden, turned red. A concubine's thing is useless. You can't even tie up a man's heart. If I had known that you were so bad, back then I should have sold you into a greenhouse with your mother. What did you say? I gripped Mrs. Yes' hand and stared at her with glaring eyes. What did you do to my mother? Lady Yi sneered. You're bent on leaving Underworld and returning to Earth. Isn't it because you can't worry about your lowly amateur? I'm telling you, she's dead. The year after you left, she fell ill and died. This time I came. I wanted to give you one last chance. Since you are so useless, then don't blame me for not being polite. The girls of the younger generation of the Yi family have already grown up. There are plenty of people who can take your place. Mrs. Yi whisked her sleeves away. I was left alone to freeze in place with teary eyes. My auntie was the best embroiderer in Southern Rivers. In an accident, she was spotted by a drunken father. And I was born by chance. The Yi family was divided between the first and the concubine. Auntie and I had a very hard time. Despite this, she worked hard to bring me up and cared for me carefully as an adult. So good a person. How to say no? No longer. I cannot think much. Hastily packed the luggage, want to leave. Turned around, but on Victor deep eyes. I could not suppress the grief in my heart and walked forward. You are the king of Yama. It is impossible that you don't know about Enyang's death. Why not tell me? Don't let me see Enyang one last time. My heart was like a knife. Sobbing uncontrollably, Victor, however, was calm. As if he was looking at a misbehaving little beast. I'm doing this for your own good. If you find out about this, you'll inevitably feel resentment. If you don't take good care of Ethan because of this. Enough. I don't want to hear it. I was too distraught to force a smile. Victor froze and took a rare step back. Life and death have their own destiny. Just now what Mrs. Yi said, you don't have to take it to heart. I promise you, we'll never let other women take your place. I have ordered someone to find a shadow fox with better fur color, and also found a few jasmine plants from the earth. All of which will be sent to your room later. He casually tossed out a bone, expecting me to be grateful. But I was tired. I fell silent and pushed Victor's hand away. Victor's tone, for a moment, went cold. Yvonne, don't be ungrateful. If you lose my protection, any ghost can make you fall apart. I wasn't afraid. I'm not afraid, Southern River's water village raised out of the woman. Look at the weak bones but always have a wave of indelible toughness. Seeing that I never turned back, Victor simply a Luna in his arms, striding into the main hall. Not a moment later, the sound of delicate gasps came out. In the green sky, the people who heard it were blushing. Ethan spat out his tongue at me. I want Aunt Luna to be with Father. She's the one who's different from a greedy bitch like you. I looked seriously at the boy ID raised. Is that really what you think? Yes. Don't think that I don't know that back then. It was you who seduced my father for the sake of wealth and power, which caused my mother to pass away with hatred. You bitch. I will never forgive you. One day, I will personally avenge my mother's death. I sighed as I looked at the soulward charm on his chest. Ethan is a half-human, half-ghost body with an ill-fated life. In order to ensure that he grows up safely, I copied 99 volumes of scriptures with my blood and begged for the soulward charm from a deceased monk. I taught him to talk and walk, and accompanied him to read and shoot arrows. I taught him how to speak and walk, and accompanied him in reading and archery. 10 years of caring and sincere companionship. I taught him to speak and walk, accompanied him to read and shoot. 10 years of care, sincere companionship are no match for outsiders. 3 words of provocation. There are some things that you may not understand until you grow up, but it doesn't matter if you can't think about it. After all, from now on, none of us will see each other again. In Ethan's puzzled gaze, a red moon illuminated the shadowy underworld. Halfway through July, the ghost gate opened. Yellow sand filled the sky. I put on my cloak and walked into the yellow sand. When I looked back, the words Hall of Judgment were blurred and hard to see. I knew that in the hearts of this father and son, I was as small as a speck of dust in the yellow sand. After I was gone, new women would be brought in. But I have nothing to do with that anymore. I'm going home. Back to the earth where the smoke rises and the spring flowers shine. I'm going to find my auntie. Even if she has already been reincarnated, I still want to put up a pillar of incense in front of her grave. Just as I was about to step into the gate of rebirth, Ethan held the soul-rending arrow and shot towards me. 5. Don't think you can get me and Father back by pretending to say something nice. If you're capable of leaving, don't ever come back. Sharp arrows carrying the teenager's resentment were shot straight at me. Ethan was young and his strength was still small. The arrow missed its aim and only grazed my shoulder. But the soul-rending arrow was so powerful that it made my organs burn. I fell to the ground and was swept into the roiling yellow sand. The bull head and horse face, who were watching from the side, were all shocked and scrambled to save me. And Ethan was also shocked by the blood gushing out from my body. Ethan was also shocked by the blood pouring out of my body. He couldn't say a word with his mouth open for half a day. I bit back the urge to stand up, but I couldn't muster a single ounce of strength in my body. The vicious yellow sand, the piercing pain. It seemed like it was going to tear my soul to shreds along with my flesh. Just then, a huge force dragged me. Victor, who heard the commotion, came in time to save me. His eyes tightened when he saw the wounds on my body. Yvonne, go back and nurse your wounds. I didn't respond. But in a flash of lightning, I drew out the sword of the Ghostbusters beside me and swung it at Ethan, who was bold and arrogant. But after all, he hadn't been in the world before. He was scared by me and backed up one after another. I didn't mean to hurt you. I just want to scare you, so that you don't dare to come back. Blood down my arm. Drip 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 fall on the ground. I raised my hand and cut off the soulward charm between Ethan's neck. Ethan cried out in fear. Victor's face was gloomy and terrible. Yvonne, what are you doing? How much longer are you going to be capricious and fool around? Where is your old steady and generous self? I covered my wound and looked coldly at Ethan. Ethan, I don't owe you anything, let alone ever ask you to repay me for all these years of nurturing, but I didn't expect that you would be so heartless and desperate. This arrow, take it as a way to cut off the entire bond between me and your father and son. In the past, I held back for the sake of my mother, who is still on earth. Now that my mother has passed away, I no longer have any attachment to her. Victor's face turned even darker. Even Bullhead and Horseface, who had always disdained me, couldn't help but speak out. Miss Yvonne, don't gamble. Once you step out of this gate, there's no possibility of coming back. They glanced at Luna and said eagerly, do you know how many women there are out there, chipping away at their brains trying to squeeze in? King Yen treats you with courtesy, and the world sun is naughty but doesn't have a bad heart. So what don't you know? In everyone's eyes, it is a blessing of several lifetimes for an earthly concubine girl to be able to marry the king of hell. I am the bed-warming concubine who fulfills desires. It's the loving and easygoing concubine mother. It's Underworld's steward. I'm a tool for the Yi family to fight for power. I am not myself. No one cares what kind of beautiful place I come from. And no one cares how I want to live my life. I placed the soul ward charm, broken in half, in front of the little fox's mound. I wasn't a good mother, and I didn't know how to be a good mother. I raised the little fox and couldn't make it good. And I brought up Ethan and didn't teach him how to be a man. So I'd better go. I only wish to say goodbye and never meet again. The sky is high and the water is far, and we shall never meet again. Victor no longer persuaded him. With a gloomy face, he took Ethan and whisked away. He only left behind a sentence, Yvonne, you will regret it. I didn't say anything and slowly walked towards Gate of Rebirth. When I passed Bridge of Oblivion, Mang asked me, Yvonne girl, would you like to drink a bowl of mangpa soup? Forget the past and come back to Earth again to start a new life. She knew that I was not happy in Underworld. What was left behind were also painful memories. But I shook my head and stepped into the 10,000 fathoms of reincarnation without hesitation. I didn't need to forget. I wanted to remember what Auntie looked like. The wind whistled past my ears, blowing away the scattered past. The flowers that grow in the water town of Southern Rivers are destined not to bloom in this dark underworld. I want to go home. I want to go back to my mother's side. 6. Light and shadow were lost, and the scenery around me kept changing. I lost consciousness. It was no longer the biting cold that woke me, or the sound of trickling water. When I opened my eyes, it was early morning when the sun was rising. The dazzling sunlight fell on me. I stretched out my hand and felt this long-lost warmth. I don't know whether the sunlight is too harsh, or my heart has accumulated too many grievances. My tears suddenly fell uncontrollably. I wiped away my tears and ran towards the small courtyard where I lived with my mother. I have not returned for many years, but the house is clean, not a trace of dust. Just a yard full of jasmine has withered and withered. Even in the spring of this revival of all things, but also looks lifeless. My favorite jasmine. Auntie also planted my flowers and plants as if they were treasures. If she was still around, she would not have been able to stand by and watch the flowers and plants wither in the yard. My heart was sore as hell, but I still held on to the last shred of luck and pushed open the door to the room. A mother. I looked around and suddenly saw a sneaky black shadow appear behind me. Who? I drew out my dagger for defense and was about to strike. Instead, I saw a man with a clean face, smiling at me. Don't be angry, girl. My name is Duan Bei. I'm a passerby who is passing by to rest his feet here. If the girl feels that I've affected your reputation, ill leave now. Duan Bei had a gentlemanly look and was well dressed. His demeanor was not lacking the chivalry of a Jianghu girl, giving people a sense of cordiality. Looking at him with no malice, I also dropped my defenses. All comers are guests. My mother often taught me before she was born that I should do more good deeds and be kind to the living beings in the world. Duan Bei nodded. Your Tsu must have been an extraordinary woman. That's why she was able to raise an outstanding girl like you. A wave of bitterness surged through my heart. My auntie is the best auntie in this world. Years of hardship never crushed her spine. She used her soft hands to hold up a side of the world for me. It's a pity that such a beautiful woman. But because she met a bad person, she ended up in such a miserable situation. Duan Bei and I simply polite a few words, but he came to the interest. Dugout buried in the tree under the too good wine, said to get drunk with me. After a few cups of wine, Duan Bei also opened his mouth. I come from a big family in the capital, with a favorable family situation, but I don't have any half affection. I'm fed up with the life of deceit, and I can't bear to fight for the family business. Sibling rivalry hand in hand, so I simply drifted in the rivers and lakes. Over the years, I have traveled all over the mountains, rivers, and seas, and have been drifting around. Until one rainy night, I mistakenly entered the small courtyard full of flowers, and all of a sudden the idea of settling here arose. I inquired from my 4 neighbors and learned that the owner of this courtyard had long passed away. So I paid out money to buy it, but it's a pity that I'm so thick-handed and clumsy that I can't raise these many good things, and I can only watch them wither away one after another. It's really a pity. After listening to Duan Bei's words, I felt a few heartfelt emotions towards him. Back then, when Mrs. Ye kneeled down and begged me to take care of Ethan, she had also said to me, Underworld is treacherous. Without the shelter of my mother, how can a half-human, half-ghost child survive in the den of tigers and wolves? I looked at that tiny blob and was moved to compassion. I wanted to make up for my missing childhood in his body. But I forgot. I was not born to be in the same boat as them. Just as I was swaying, Duan Bei suddenly reached out and tapped on my brow. I see that there's always a touch of sadness between your eyebrows that can't be melted away. But are you missing your sweetheart? I smiled. It's all in the past. I let it go long ago. I don't know why, but the father and son figure appeared in front of my eyes again. Victor is very good-looking, and his temperament is outstanding. When I first saw him, I was once attracted to him, but he preferred to look at his sister's paintings. But he preferred to speak to his sister's portrait, not to look at me more than once. He wouldn't give me a single extra glance except on the bed. I watched him bring one woman after another who looked like my sister into Underworld, and I watched him hang the paintings that my sister had left before she died in front of our bed. I gradually realized, no one can take the place of the dead. No matter how well I did, there was no way I could compare to my dead sister. Victor missed his wife, Ethan missed his mother, and I would always be a part of that family. And I'll always be an extra in that family. Even without Luna, there would be other women who could easily take my place. But in this little yard, I am the free Yvonne, the unique Yvonne, the Yvonne who is held in the palm of one's hand, so I will never turn back. After some emotion, Duan Bei and I will be 2 altars of wine a drink, but also become a good friend without words. He invited me to live with him and bought all kinds of flower seeds. He also accompanied me to rebury Anyang's ashes. We offered incense day after day. We watched the birds sing together and looked forward to the flowers blooming again. When the first jasmine plant sprouted its branches, I saw my long-lost friend, Victor, standing in the night, looking down at me with an unruly look on his face. Yvonne, It's time to go back after coming out for such a long break. Ethan can't stay away from your care. 7. Having spent so much time in Underworld, he couldn't get used to the light of the earth. Even if it was the gentlest of moonlight. He squinted his eyes. Disgust flashed in his eyes once after seeing me covered in dirt. I know you're sad and unbearable, but you don't have to be so self-absorbed. With 10 years of affection, as long as you ask, I will take you back. An emperor and noble like Victor was born not to bow his head. The fact that he was willing to condescend to come to this poor countryside was already an unparalleled concession. Even I, myself, felt a bit surprised. King of Yen is joking, am a mortal woman. How can I climb up to the King of Yen? Furthermore, the contract has been destroyed. In what capacity should I return with you? Victor hesitated for a split second. He pushed Ethan in front of me. This little group squirmed for half a day and whispered, "I'm sorry, mother." After saying that, his cheeks quickly reddened. Shyly shrinking back into the carriage, he refused to come out again. Victor waved his hand. The fog grew around them. One by one, the Yin soldiers and ghosts carried countless bridal gifts and walked over. Flaming red dowry. Dazzling gold. It was out of place with my simple little courtyard. All these years, I've always owed you a name. This time, if you go back with me, I will make up for what I owe you. Victor's complexion became firm. A pair of deep eyes kept their gaze on me. He said with a straight face, "Yvonne, Victor, am willing to welcome you with 10 miles of red makeup and grant you the position of side consort. From now on, you are the rightful mistress of Underworld." I heard that when Victor married his sister, he made a great deal of noise. From the heavenly realm down to Underworld, all the gods and ghosts knew about it. At that time, I also looked forward to it. To be able to be like my sister and find someone who truly loves me. I don't need 10 miles of red makeup, nor do I need a phoenix crown. I just want a relationship that will never leave me. But Victor can't give me that. His most sincere feelings have already been given to my sister. His heart can never belong to me completely. Instead of living as someone else's shadow, I'd rather be in the smoky water town with flowers and plants. Yvonne, you don't know what's good for you. Victor, patience exhausted. Is my this period of time is that I am too indulgent to you? Let you lose your sense of proportion. Go back with me. I will teach you the rules properly. Victor gripped my slender wrist and insisted on dragging me onto the carriage. Ethan watched me from the side without the slightest intention to help. There was a huge difference in strength between men and women, and I couldn't struggle. Just then, a new force separated us. I stumbled a few steps and fell into a familiar embrace. Duan Bei hugged me and looked at Victor with cold eyes. Yanluo Wang. A gentleman doesn't force himself on people. Victor's face was completely gloomy. Third Prince, why are you here? 8. I never imagined that the ranger I spent time with would be the famous Third Prince of the past. Thinking of all the stories he had told me about hand-to-hand combat. The way I looked at him, I couldn't help but be a few points more complicated. He was only one step away from the throne. But at the last moment, he left all the prosperity and left alone. Since then, no one has ever seen him again. Duan Bei is a royal bloodline, a true dragon son, with purple energy protecting his body. Even if Victor was the king of hell, he couldn't help him. Therefore, he spoke without fear. King of Yen, isn't it a bit too cruel for you to trap a person who loves flowers in Underworld where no grass grows? You know, she hasn't had a happy life in the past 10 years. After a brief moment of emotion, I came to my senses quickly. For 10 years, I did my duty. Women came and went around Victor, and there were countless existences like Luna, They were like spring flowers, blooming one after another. I was the only one who blossomed for 10 years. Some say I have a deep heart and a knack for winning people over. Some say I've learned to charm Victor, but the real reason is simple. That is, I have never loved Victor. There is no hate without love, let alone happiness. I just followed the agreement and fulfilled my duties under the contract. When the contract expired, there was nothing more to do. I explained everything to Victor. He was filled with shock and couldn't come back to his senses for a long time. You mean you never loved me? I nodded. Never. That momentary heartbeat came too late and disappeared too quickly. Duan Bei laughed twice, his laughter filled with mockery. Yanluo Wang, the words have been said. Please go back. Why make a fool of yourself here? Feeling his face damaged, Victor turned around and ordered all the Yin soldiers and ghosts to leave Ethan. However, pushed Victor away and hugged me from behind. Perhaps he knew that we would never see each other again. He let go of those rules and behaviors, revealing his purest side. Mother, don't go. I know I'm wrong, Mother. I miss you so much, except for you. No one can make delicious peach blossom pastry. No one plays polo with me. Grandma Meng taught me to watch people in the microcosm. I've come to realize that Mother is the one who treats me the best in this world. I shouldn't listen to other people's words and doubt the heart of Mother's treatment of me. See, those truths weren't hard to investigate. It's just that this father and son never cared about my feelings. Much less would they be willing to waste time to clear my name. It was only after losing it completely that I realized the value of sincerity. I silently pushed Ethan's hand away. Ethan, I'm not your mother. I've done enough for you. I didn't want to get too involved with a child. Even more so, I didn't want to forgive the hurts so easily. But I miss you. Ethan looked to me with red eyes. Father also misses you a lot. After you left, he would fret in your bedroom every day. He rediscovered an identical little fox, and he changed the portrait in the main hall to you. Mother, Father and I both have you in our hearts. Don't be angry, okay? I will help you take care of the little fox and will be filial to you. I looked at Victor with some surprise. The tips of his scarlet ears said it all. I spent 10 years failing to impress him. But after a month or so of being gone, he replaced his sister's place in his heart. His heart, it was so capricious. I sighed slightly. Yen, don't come back to me. I was not in love with you once, and I will be even less so in the future. Instead of wasting your time on me, you should spend more time with Ethan. I rubbed Ethan's head and pushed him in front of Victor. Seriously, don't let him grow up to be like you. Victor reluctantly took a few steps closer to me. But the night was fading and the sun was about to rise. He had no choice but to leave. I looked at the rising sun in a daze, but Duan Bei gently pulled my hand. Yvonne, look. The jasmine flowers are blooming, a jasmine hanging with dewdrops, in the early morning sunlight, slowly blooming. The sweet fragrance of the flowers was the same as on my auntie. My eyes reddened slightly, and I turned my head to look at Duan Bei again. Duan Bei, do you like me? Like, very much. He laughed, not just a casual fondness, but the fondness of not leaving each other with white heads, the fondness of a lifetime, the fondness of a pair of people, the fondness of a bandit stone of my heart that cannot be turned. The sunlight imprinted on his face, illuminating his eyes glittering. Duan Bei told me that he had seen me 10 years ago when he accompanied the late emperor down southern rivers. I clutched a handful of jasmine and brushed past him. The fragrance of the flowers colored my body, and you stayed in my heart. At that moment, I suddenly felt that glory and riches were just a passing cloud. And I wanted to be like you, free and happy, running through this countryside. I smiled, slowly holding Duan Bai's hand back. Good. Then we'll be together in this small courtyard, watching the flowers bloom and fall, watching the clouds roll in and out. Duan Bei, who received a reply, laughed openly. It startled the birds all over the trees in unison. Leaves rustling, an unknown small flower slowly and leisurely floated down to my palm. It's like a mother's blessing to us.